Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. We got our first glimpse on what this Auburn offense will look under Hugh Freeze against a team that's wearing a different colored jersey. And I'd say, this Auburn offense certainly did not disappoint. Now, this was against UMass, who Auburn is significantly better than that. I will say UMass, I think, is a much better team than most people give credit for this year. And you saw a really vanilla offense. But what you did see is Auburn go out and execute what they wanted to execute. You got to see a lot of different things and a lot of different players play, and you definitely were able to learn a little bit about what this offense will look like. Now, I don't think they showed even half of what this offense can be when you get into that SEC schedule, but again, still getting a feel for what this Auburn offense is going to be and who are going to be the impact playmakers for this Auburn team. Going to go over 5 things that we learned from this game. I watched it a couple different times, have my notes in front of me, excited to get into it. Now, before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys and especially the Auburn fans. We've talked so much about this Auburn team in the preseason over the summer, not only what Hugh Freeze is going to do this year, but really what he can do with this program. And the amount of support from you guys, the Auburn fans, truly means a lot. So one, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Would like to start breaking down a lot of these Auburn offensive games just because I'm so interested in this Hugh Freeze offense. So if you do enjoy it, consider subscribing to the channel. But again, more importantly, especially with you guys, the Auburn fans, let me know in the comment section what your biggest takeaway was. The best part about doing this, hearing from you guys, talking ball with you guys in the comment section. So again, appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. And let's go into the number one thing I took away from this Auburn game, and that is this offensive line this is one of the best Auburn offensive lines that we've seen in a really long time. And that's something that we've kind of hammered home during the offseason. Like, a lot of buzz goes to Peyton Thorne, Shane Hooks, Jair Shorter, Hugh Freeze coming in. My thing that I was always kind of so excited for is Auburn really has had a bad offensive line the last couple of years under Brian Harsin, and it's really hard to win football games in the SEC when you can't match up physically in the trenches. This, in my opinion, by far the best Auburn offensive line that we've seen, and it's deep. You saw, 8, 9, 10 guys that they were playing, like, kind of rotating in with the ones. Gunnar Britton playing all over the offensive line. I thought he looked good. Dylan Wade, Avery Jones. This is going to be massive for Auburn because they still want to run the football. You look at where some of their playmakers are. It is in the backfield. They're going to want to run the football, and they have the offensive line to certainly do that. That was my biggest takeaway. This Auburn offensive line looks about as good as we thought it would, and I'm really excited to see how this unit kind of continues to gel together. Now, the number 2 takeaway was thought the tempo looked really good, and they played really fast. And I would remind Auburn fans that this is with the transfer quarterback that didn't come into spring practice. You have 3 transfer offensive linemen. You have multiple transfers on the outside at the wide receiver position, and this tempo was still really, really good. What does that tell me? The tempo was good week 1 with so many new faces, a new head coach. What's this tempo going to look like when it's week 6 and you're in SEC play? I really like it. You have a deep offensive line that they rotate, so you're going to have fresh big dogs up front. I think you can grind these teams down. And another thing I would add is that I feel like Auburn used tempo the right way, right? They weren't just like blindly using tempos, but when they picked up that first down and they saw they could kind of step on the team's neck a little bit on this drive, they really, really ramped it up. And you could see they were just kind of pinning UMass against the wall and just marching it down the field. That being said, like, when you get down to the goal line or when you're starting a drive and you want to pick up that first down, maybe don't always use tempo. My biggest pet peeve for some teams that use tempo, and this is just kind of my opinion, is that when you blindly use tempo and you go 3 and out in like 35 seconds, that puts your defense in a really bad spot. And at the end of the day, you have to play some sort of complementary football. So when you get that first down, that first down of the drive, you can really start ramping it up. That's how I would prefer it. And I think that's how Auburn did use it. And then when it got down to the red zone, like, they started mixing in some different packages, getting some substitutes. And that is the most important parts of the drive, is when you get inside the 20 in that red zone, you got to put 7 on the board. Slow it down. Make sure you have the right play. Make sure you have the right packages set up. Really was impressed with how that Auburn tempo looked. Number 3, Robbie Ashford's going to help this team. And I saw a lot of buzz on Twitter and kind of reading some message boards about some Auburn fans had frustration about Robbie Ashford being too much used and kind of felt like a 2-quarterback system. And I'll say this, like, I am one of the biggest advocates for picking a quarterback and rocking with that quarterback. As a Michigan fan, we've gone to the 2-quarterback system at times. It's extremely frustrating. I think like you want to have one guy that the offense listens to and has command of the offense, and that is Peyton Thorne. Why I was kind of excited about how they used Robbie Ashford is he's just a wrinkle in this offense. And yeah, sometimes if Peyton Thorne's really cooking, like, are you going to take Peyton Thorne out and put Robbie Ashford in? But no, that being said, when you have a package for Robbie Ashford, who is, I mean, arguably the most dynamic player with the ball in his hands on this Auburn team, I mean, you have to be like you want him to touch the ball. You want him to have an impact. You want to force defenses to game plan and spend half of their week game planning for what does it look like when we're playing defense and Robbie Ashford is taking snaps. I think they used Robbie Ashford well. And I mean, when you saw him kind of use his legs, like he is one of the more dynamic players on this football field. He's going to help this team. I think Hugh Freeze is going to get a better feel as the season goes on when to use him, when to keep Peyton Thorne in there. But Robbie Ashford, at the end of the day, too talented not to be on the field, in my opinion. So use him in some ways, but just make sure you're using him in the right ways and not really interrupting the flow of the drives. And I would probably be interested to hear what the Auburn fans think of that. Because again, I am about as against as it gets to using the two quarterback system. And this wasn't a two quarterback system. This was a package for Robbie to come in and kind of provide a new wrinkle in this offense. This wasn't like Peyton Thorne gets one drive, Robbie Ashford gets one drive. This is Peyton Thorne's offense that Robbie Ashford comes in to provide a little bit of a wrinkle and a little bit of just a different feel and look for this Auburn offense. I personally liked it. I'm kind of interested to hear what you guys have to say because, again, I saw a lot of Auburn fans not really happy with how much Robbie Ashford was used. Number 4, there's a lot of weapons on the outside, and you didn't get to see them all. I mean, you used to look at this game plan. I have 44 runs to only 25 passes. I think and Hugh Freeze even said this in the post game. Like, he's like, yeah, we didn't show our whole offense. Like, we got like Rivaldo Fairweather. I don't think he caught a single football. And this was a guy that you read the fall practice notes, like, this dude is going to be a guy in this offense. I think Auburn has a lot of guys that they're going to be able to get the football to. I don't think you saw those guys necessarily used. I think this was a vanilla offense. One guy I will shout out, or I got two guys that I want to shout out. Damari Alston, Jeremiah Cobb. Those guys look great. I know Jerquez Hunter's probably the guy when he's able to play, but this is a running back room that has probably 4 or 5 guys that you feel can really tote the rock. And when you're going to run as many plays as Auburn's going to run, and you can continue to rotate these running backs in and out, fresh legs in the fourth quarter against a really tired defense in the fourth quarter, I think that really excites you. I mean, it's a loaded running back room. Now on the outside, I mean, Jay Fair, you saw some buzz in fall camp about the true sophomore, and there was just a lot of talk about like Shane Hooks made some incredible catches in fall camp. Jair Shorter. I feel like Jay Fair just kind of kept sliding under the radar. If you were to ask me after that game, this might be a little bit of an overreaction. Who's going to lead Auburn in receiving yards this year? I'd probably answer Jay Fair. He looks like the guy when Peyton Thorne wants to make a play, when they say 3rd and 5 and you got to move the chains. I think Jay Fair is the guy that they're going to be going to. And you take a look at the amount of playmakers and different style of playmakers in this Auburn offense, specifically in this wide receiver room. You got to feel really good about what that group looks like. Now, number 5, and I just kind of want to end it with this. We didn't see the whole offense. Like, again, 44 runs to 25 passes. I would be surprised if it was that little lack of balance. Like, Auburn has the guys on the outside to push the football down the field. Hugh Freeze is going to want to try to hit some more explosive plays. I think you saw, like, hey, we want to just establish the run our offense efficiently and effectively, and make that happen. Outside of that, like, again, I get it's UMass, but you have to be really, really happy about what you saw from Auburn, because when you look back at the Brian Harsin era and you're playing these paycheck games, quote unquote, where you're just paying a kind of a worse team to come play you, like, it wasn't always that pretty. You saw this offense execute and do pretty much whatever they wanted to do, and you didn't really see that whole Hugh Freeze offense. And when you go on the road to Cal next week, I think you'll see a little bit more of it, depending on how much they feel they need to show. And when you get into SEC play, Hugh Freeze is going to unleash this playbook, unleash all these playmakers. Really, really good. And it just feels good as kind of a pseudo Auburn fan to see Auburn take care of business, do what we expected them to do in their week 1 opener with a lot of new faces. Auburn fans, you know how we're rocking. We're very excited for this crew again. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. But again, I want to remind you guys, let me know in the comment section what you guys took away. I learned so much from you guys, so appreciate you guys rocking with it, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.